we are going to look at tax administration. Tax administration in Nigeria. That is the first topic we are going to look at today, tax administration. After the tax administration, we look at tax assessment too. We look at tax assessments. After the tax administration, we may look at tax assessments. So that is what we are going to look at today, tax administration. What are the role of tax administration? What are the functions of tax administration? So this class consists of both online students and our VI center. So tax administration in Nigeria, have we talked about it before? I don't think so.
No, sir.
So when we talk about tax administration, we are talking about the process, the means of administering, managing, conducting, and supervision of tax law in the country. Tax administration also involves formulation of tax policy. Formulation of tax policy is also part of tax administration. So what tax administration do has to do with registration, assessment, return, collection of taxes. That is what tax administration entails. Registration, assessment, returns, collection of taxes, and so on. Now, what are the functions of tax administration? What are the functions? What function do you think is the function of tax administration? Number one function, registration of taxpayer. Tax administration, they are the one that will register taxpayer. Once they register taxpayer, they will issue taxpayer ID or tax identification number to them. Is one of the functions of tax administration. Assessment of taxpayers too. There will be one. Tax administration, they are the one that will raise assessment on the taxpayer. They are the one that will tell the taxpayer this is the amount of tax that is supposed to pay. Assessment of taxpayer is also one of the functions of tax administration, tax assessment or assessment of taxpayer. They will be the one to compute the tax the taxpayer will pay. They will be the one to raise assessment for them. It's part of the function of tax administration. Another function of tax administration that we have is tax return. They will review the return of the taxpayer. The return submitted by the taxpayer is going to be reviewed by the tax administration. So, as a tax administrator, you are the one that will review the return is on true and fair view or not. So, it's part of the function of tax administration. So, another function of tax administration is called tax collection. They collect tax from the taxpayer. They are the one that will collect tax from taxpayer. They will be the one to collect tax from the taxpayer. After they are giving them tax return, they will impose on them, these are the kind of tax that you pay. So another function that we have for tax administration is compliance monitoring. Tax administration, they will monitor the taxpayer to ensure that they comply with the tax law. Like we have now, by next year, a new tax law is going to commence from 1st of January, starting from next year. Who is going to ensure compliance of those tax laws? It is the tax administration function. Who are these tax administration? We are talking of Federal Inland Revenue Service, State Internal Revenue Service. They are the tax administration. They will be the one to monitor, to ensure that the taxpayer, they are complying with the tax law. The new tax law that is signed, taxpayer need to comply. Who is going to ensure that they comply? Who is going to monitor the compliance? It is the tax administration function. So aside that, we have another one, tax compliance enforcement. If taxpayer don't comply, who is going to enforce on them? Who is going to do tax enforcement? It is tax administration that will do the enforcement. Tax administration will be the one to enforce compliance. Enforcement of compliance is very key. So some people don't want to pay tax. Who is going to enforce them? Who is going to seal their office? Who is going to take them to court? It is tax administration. For you to ensure that taxpayers follow the tax law, you have to enforce. Nigeria don't want to pay tax. So tax administration, one of your role is to ensure that these people need to follow the tax law. They need to pay tax at the right time. They need to file return. Enforcement is very key. So this is one of the functions of tax administration. Another function of tax administration is sanction. They need to sanction those who contravene the tax law. They need to impose penalty on them. They need to impose fine on them. Tax sanction. Those who go against the tax law, who engage in tax evasion, they need to enforce on them. So this is one of the functions of tax administration. Sanction. You need to sanction them. So sanction is very key. You have to sanction those who contravene against tax law as a tax administration. Those who fail to keep proper book of account, you have to sanction them. Another function of tax administration is tax education and awareness. They need to sensitize the taxpayer. They need to educate them. Why do you need to pay tax? What are the importance of taxation? Who is going to tell us why the citizen need to pay tax? It's tax administration. You need to educate them the importance of tax. You need to tell them what government are using tax money to do. You need to let them know why they need to pay tax. So all these are the function of tax administration. Like I said, number one function of tax administration is registration of taxpayer. Number two, assessment of taxpayer. Number three, tax return. Number four function of tax administration, tax collection. Compliance monitoring, number five. Number six, compliance enforcement. Why number seven, sanction. Number eight, tax education. Hello?
Yeah, Mr. Idris. I don't know what's going on.
Can you hear me?
It has been, yes, I can hear you now. It has been muted since.
Okay. Now, we have three major tax administration in Nigeria. Three major relevant tax authority in Nigeria. First one is at the federal level, Federal Inland Revenue Service. While the second one is at the what? State level, State Internal Revenue Service. The third one is called Local Government Revenue Committee. That one is at the local government level. The three major tax authorities. Apart from this, we have another tax authority called Joint Tax Board. We have Tax Appeal Tribunal. But the three major tax authorities we have in Nigeria is called Federal Inland Revenue Service, State Internal Revenue Service, we have Revenue Committee, which is called Local Government Revenue Committee. These are the three major tax authorities that we have in Nigeria. They are the three major tax authorities. So now, what are the functions of Federal Inland Revenue Service? What are the functions? What are the laws that establish Federal Inland Revenue Service? Federal Inland Revenue Service was created in 1979. But as at present, there is a law that governs Federal Inland Revenue Service. We call it Federal Inland Revenue Service Establishment Act of 2007. This Federal Inland Revenue Service Establishment Act of 2007, as from next year, there will be a new law that will govern, that will be regulating Federal Inland Revenue Service. Who can tell me the new law that will be regulating them? It's called NRA, Nigeria Revenue Service Act 2025, which is going to commence from next year. But as at present now, the process, the administration, the operation is still based on Federal Inland Revenue Establishment Act of 2007. Do we understand? Do we understand? So, what are the composition of Federal Inland Revenue Board? What are the composition of Federal Inland Revenue Board? The Federal Inland Revenue Board consists of the chairman, which must be an experienced tax person. Apart from the chairman, they have 6 members representing each geopolitical zone. They have the representative of Central Bank of Nigeria. They have the representative of Ministry of Finance. So all these are the composition of the Federal Inland Revenue Service Board. We have representative of CAC. They are the composition. Now, what are the power of Federal Inland Revenue Service Board? One of the power of Federal Inland Revenue Service Board is they provide general guidelines relating to the function of the service. Federal Inland Revenue Service Board provides general guidelines relating to what? The function of the service. Another one, they manage and superintend the policy of the service on a matter relating to the administration of the revenue, assessment, collection, and accounting system under these acts. This is one of the functions of Federal Inland Revenue Service Board. Federal Inland Revenue Service Board also review and approve strategic plan of the service. Federal Inland Revenue Service Board, another function is they are the ones that will stipulate the remuneration, the allowance, the pension of the staff of the Federal Inland Revenue Service. It's part of the federal function of Federal Inland Revenue Service Board. Federal Inland Revenue Service Board, they are the ones that will also employ and determine the terms and conditions of the service or the employee of Federal Inland Revenue Service Board. So apart from Federal Inland Revenue Service Board, we have Technical Committee of Federal Inland Revenue Service Board. Who are the Technical Committee of Federal Inland Revenue Service Board. Technical committee, they have 3 members, 4 members. The chairman of Federal Inland Revenue will also serve as chairman of technical committee. Apart from chairman, they have directors too. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Now, these are the member of Federal Inland Revenue Technical Committee. Chairman will serve as the chairman of technical committee. The director and the head of department, they are also part of the member. The legal advisor to the Federal Inland Revenue Service is part of the member of technical committee. The secretary is also part of the member of technical committee. Now, what are the functions of technical committee member? What are the functions? What are the functions of technical committee? To consider matter relating to professional and technical experts. To consider task matter that require professional and technical experts. And they also make recommendation to the board. Anything that requires technical or professional experts, they are the ones that will make recommendation to the board of Federal Inland Revenue Service. They also advise the board of Federal Inland Revenue on their power and duties. They advise the board of Federal Inland Revenue on their power and duties. They can assign to them from time to time. So these are the functions of technical committee of Federal Inland Revenue Service. So another relevant tax authority we want to look at, State Internal Revenue Service. State Internal Revenue Service. State Internal Revenue Service. So who are the State Internal Revenue Service? State Internal Revenue Service was established under Personal Income Tax Act 1993. State Internal Revenue Service. State Internal Revenue Service Board. The State Internal Revenue Service Board was established under Personal Income Tax Act 1993. What are the functions? First and foremost, what are the composition of State Internal Revenue Service Board? What State Internal Revenue Service Board income tax? Hello? So State Internal Revenue Service consists of executive chairman who must have an experience in a tax matter. Executive chairman that must have an experience in a tax matter. Apart from the executive chairman, State Internal Revenue Service, we also have a 3-member that will be nominated by the Commissioner of Finance of the states. Every state have a State Internal Revenue Service Board. Example, Lagos State have their own State Internal Revenue Service Board called LRS, Lagos State Internal Revenue Service. Ogun State have their own. Every state have State Internal Revenue Service. Apart from that, State Internal Revenue Service, they also have a directors, and head of State Internal Revenue Service. A director and head of what? State Internal Revenue Service must be a member of the board. Another member of the board is a director from State Ministry of Finance. A director from what? State Ministry of Finance is part of composition of State Internal Revenue Service Board. Legal advisor to the board is part of member of the board too. So now, what are the functions of State Internal Revenue Service Board? What are the functions of State Internal Revenue Service Board? One of their functions is to ensure effectiveness and optimum collection of all taxes and penalties due to government under the relevant law. To ensure effectiveness and optimal collection of all taxes and levy due to the government under the relevant law. Another function of State Internal Revenue Service Board is to do anything necessary, deemed necessary, for collection, assessment of tax in a manner prescribed by the commissioner. This State Internal Revenue Service Board, they normally report to Commissioner of Finance of every state. They normally refer so it's another function of State Internal Revenue Service Board, ensuring effectiveness and optimal collection of all taxes and penalties due to the government under the relevant law. Another function of State Internal Revenue Service Board is to do everything necessary to ensure assessment, collection of taxes in a manner prescribed by who? By the Commissioner of Finance. Apart from that, they also make recommendations to the Joint Tax Board on an issue relating to tax policy, tax reform, tax legislation, tax exemption. State Internal Revenue Service Board, one of their functions is to make recommendations to Joint Tax Board on a matter that relate to what? Tax policy, tax reform, tax legislation, tax treaty, tax exemption. They make this recommendation from time to time. This recommendation is made from time to time. Another function of State Internal Revenue Service Board is they control the management of the service on a matter of policy. They control the management of the service on a matter that relate to what? Policy, subject to provision of law. State Internal Revenue Service Board, they also appoint, they promote, they impose discipline on employee of the state service. State Internal Revenue Service Board appoints, promotes, impose discipline on employee of the state service. So these are the functions of State Internal Revenue Service Board. Now, let's look at Joint Tax Board. Joint Tax Board. Who are the Joint Tax Board? Joint Tax Board was established under Personal Income Tax Act. What Joint Tax Board mean? What does Joint Tax Board, what is their major role is to resolve tax disputes between different tax authorities. They resolve tax disputes between different tax authorities within Nigeria. If there is any dispute between any state tax authority and the Federal Inland Revenue Service, joint tax board, they will be the one to resolve it. If there is a joint tax dispute between two state tax authorities, maybe two state tax authorities that are sharing border, like Lagos State and State, they may be having a tax dispute on who is going to collect tax in a boundary area. Who is going to resolve it to them? Joint tax board. These joint tax boards, they are established under Personal Income Tax Act, and they harmonize state tax. Harmonization of state tax is one of the major goals of joint tax board. Now, what are the composition of joint tax board? Number one, the chairman of Federal Inland Revenue Service. The chairman of what? Federal Inland Revenue Service is part of the member of joint tax board. Apart from the chairman, every state that we have in Nigeria, they will nominate a member, one person that will represent them in the joint tax board. One member from each state of the federation, being a person experienced in tax matter. That person is going to be nominated by the Commissioner of Finance of every state. That means when you look at the composition of joint tax board, chairman is the first person, while one member from each state, and that member must be experienced in tax matter, Commissioner of Finance. Hello?
So I can't hear you. I don't know if it's just me. You've been breaking off a lot.
I think you went to Pico, probably.
Okay, thank you.
The secretary is part of the member of joint tax board. The legal advisor is also part of the member of joint tax board. The legal advisor is part of the member of joint tax board. The legal advisor.
Mr. Idris.
So let's look at function of joint tax board. What are the functions of joint tax board?
Excuse, sir.
Yeah.
Sorry, you have been muted at some moment, and we are missing a lot of things. We don't know whether you are muting by yourself to pick your call, or please kindly always assist to inform us that.
Just manage it like that, please. Function of joint tax board. Function of joint tax board. So one of the functions of joint tax board, they advise all tiers of government on tax matter. They advise all tiers of government on tax matters. They advise all tiers of government on tax matter. They advise Federal Inland Revenue Service on a matter relating to tax. They also advise state internal revenue service on taxes and levy that can be collected by states. They advise local government revenue service on taxes and levy that can be collected. So they advise them. This is one of the functions of joint task board. Another function of joint task board is resolving area of conflict on task jurisdiction among member of states. Resolving area of conflict on task jurisdiction among member of states. Resolving area of conflict on task jurisdiction among member of states. When there is task conflict on who to collect tax, take for instance, Lagos State and Ogun State government in the past, they have a lot of tax conflicts. What are the tax conflicts? Most of the residents of Ogun State, most of the people residing in Ogun State, 50% of them, they are working in Lagos State. And their personal income tax is deducted by the employer. The employer will not know that they are residing in Ogun State. They will remit it to Lagos State. At the time, Ogun State have to take Lagos State to court that most of our taxpayer, our personal income taxpayer, you are the one collecting it. So who resolve it for them? It's joint tax board. What joint tax board advises you to Ogun State, you need to create a lot of tax awareness, tax education to your residents. Let them know that personal income tax is based on residential rule. Personal income tax is based on what? Residential rule. Where you reside is where you remit your personal income tax to, not where you are working. So Ogun State need to sensitize people that where you are residing, just tell your employer you need to remit your tax to Ogun State. So they need to create more awareness. So another function of joint tax board that we have is processing for approval, decision on provident fund scheme as part of tax allowance deduction. Joint tax board, they are the ones that will tell you that pension contribution can be as a tax exemption. National Housing Fund can serve as a tax exemption. It is the function of joint tax board that will determine the rate of pension, what rate of pension contribution that will serve as tax exemption, what rate of National Housing Fund. Consolidated relief allowance that we have, which is either 200,000 naira or 1% of gross income. Who determines that rate? It is joint tax board that do that. What kind of capital allowance rate? The rate of capital allowance that we need to charge on our QCE, qualified capital expenditure. Who is going to determine the rate? Joint tax board. Joint tax board. So another function of joint tax board is resolving any dispute in determination of residency between taxpayer and a tax authority. Resolving any dispute in determination of what? Resident between taxpayer and a tax authority. Another function of joint tax board, to exercise any other power or duty that may be imposed on them by government from time to time. This is another function of joint tax board. So another tax authority that we need to look at, this one is at the local government level. It is called Local Government Revenue Committee. Local Government what? Revenue Committee. Local Government Revenue Committee. This Local Government Revenue Committee was also established by Personal Income Tax Act to collect and administer taxes and levy within what? Within local governments. Local Government Revenue Committee is established by Personal Income Tax Act to collect taxes and levy within the local governments. What are the composition of Local Government Revenue Committee? We have the chairman, which is the supervisor of finance. The supervisor of finance is the chairman of Local Government Revenue Committee. We have 3 local government councillors as part of the member of Local Government Revenue Committee. We also have 2 persons nominated by the chairman of the local government. 2 persons nominated by the chairman of the local government. They are part of member of Local Government Revenue Committee. What are the functions of Local Government Revenue Committee? What function does Local Government Revenue Committee perform? One of the functions of Local Government Revenue Committee is assessments and allocation of all taxes, fine, rates under its jurisdiction. What are its jurisdiction under the local government? They are the ones that will collect, assess all taxes and fine under the local government law. And the manner that they will use to collect the tax, that manner is going to be determined by the chairman of the local government. The chairman of the local government. Local Government Revenue Committee too, one of their functions, they are responsible for day-to-day administration of local government treasury. They are responsible for what? Day-to-day administration of local government treasury. Local Government Revenue Committee, one of their functions is also to advise local governments on a tax-related matters, to advise local government on tax-related matters, to advise local government on a tax-related matters. So these are the functions of Local Government Revenue Committee. Now, efficient of tax administration. Another item. We are still under this tax. The topic is tax administration in Nigeria. We have looked at who are the tax administration in Nigeria. First and foremost in this topic, we start with function of tax administration. When we talk about function of tax administration, we talk about what does FRS do, what does LRS do, their major function: registration of taxpayer, assessment of taxpayer, compliance monitoring, sanction, tax education. These are the major functions of tax administration. From there, we now look at the tax administration. We look at each of the tax administration. One of the first one we look at is Federal Inland Revenue Service Board. We look at their own, the functions specific to them. And we look at the composition of the board. State too, we look at function of State Internal Revenue Service Board, specific to them, and we look at their composition of the board. Local government too, we have looked at Local Government Revenue Committee, their function and their composition of the board. Apart from that, we look at Joint Tax Board. composition of joint task board, and their functions too. Now, where we are going now is efficient of task administration. Efficiency of task administration. If task administration want to perform their function efficiently, if they want to do their job right, if they want to be effective, what are the things that they need to put in place? What will make task administration to perform their function efficient? So they call it efficiency of task administration. One of the efficiency of task administration that we have is payment processing and collection. Payment processing and collection. What we are saying now is, if you want to pay tax, you should pay through a payment process solution, through technology, modern technology, like Tax Pro Max. If Federal Inland Revenue Service or any of the tax authority want to collect tax, they should not be collecting tax through manual process. They should be using the modern technology, modern software. It will make their job easy. It will prevent revenue loss. So this is one of the efficiency of tax administration. Another efficiency of tax administration is record keeping. They should ensure that they are keeping record of the taxpayer. They are keeping record of the taxpayer, tax authority. If they want to do their job efficiently, one of the things that will make them to do their job efficiently is to be keeping record of taxpayer, record maintenance, so that they will know who has paid tax at the right time. And how do we ensure that record keeping in the tax administration complies with global practice? It is through the use of cloud computing technology. Cloud computing technology. Information of the taxpayer should be saved on the cloud. We should not be saving taxpayer information on manual, keeping paper record. Life has gone beyond that. Another efficiency of tax administration that we have, exchange of information. Taxpayer, there should be automatic, we call it AEI. AEI means automatic exchange of information. Taxpayer should be exchanging information. LRS and FRS, they should partner together to exchange information about taxpayer. How does that work? If FRS come to tax audit, FRS now review a company rent. They ask the company, how much are you paying for rent? 5 million naira. When you want to remit the rent to your landlord, do you deduct withholding tax? You know, the tax consultant of the company can say, the withholding tax is for the landlord, is an individual, and the withholding tax is deducted and is remitted to State Internal Revenue Service. It's not in your jurisdiction, FRS. If FRS and LRS are exchanging information, what FRS will do in that instant is to send mail to who? To LRS to confirm whether withholding tax is actually deducted from such transaction. If withholding tax is not deducted, LRS will trigger FRS will trigger FRS, LRS to come and collect withholding tax on such transaction. Because in the long run too, if LRS come to tax audit, you will deceive them again that the withholding tax, the landlord of the building is a company. So it's not you that will collect withholding tax. So exchange of information. At a time, LRS and FRS, they want to be conducting what is called joint tax audit. As FRS is conducting the tax audit, LRS will be conducting the tax audit. The same day, they will be exchanging information so that you will not evade, the company will not evade tax. It's part of efficiency of tax administration in Nigeria. Enforcement of tax law too. Enforcement of tax law is one of the efficiency of tax administration. For us to have good tax administration in Nigeria, we need to enforce tax law. Nigeria generally, they don't want to pay tax. Everybody they like free things. They don't want to pay tax. So tax authority have to stand on their toes to enforce tax law, to go door to door, to ensure that companies that don't pay tax, they impose penalty on them, their office will see, you understand? So they need to enforce tax law. You can't sit down in your office that you say, you are expecting taxpayer to be paying tax every month as a tax authority. No, you need to enforce the law. You need to go to their office to go and checkmate them. Why have you not paid tax in the last 3 years? If need be, lock their office. Enforcement is very key in Nigeria. If you don't enforce, then, so like me, I always advise tax authorities still need to do more work on enforcement of taxation at the informal sector level. Who are the informal sector? One-man business, trader, technician, those who are doing their business that are not working in company. You an office worker that you are working for somebody as an employee, your employer normally deduct your tax and remit, because your employer knows that if they didn't deduct your tax, they will sanction them. But those who are in the informal level, selling good, having their own shop, having their own supermarket, or doing handwork like hairdresser, like mechanic, tailor, most of these people, they are earning income, they don't pay tax. How to put them in the tax net? FRS need to work more. Tax authority, which is LRS, they need to work more on taxation of informal sector. Another efficiency of tax administration is funding of tax authority. Tax authority should be adequately funded by government. If you want them to perform, fund them very well. Their staff, give them a good remuneration. Let them know that the job they are doing is one of the lucrative jobs in Nigeria. When you motivate them, you improve their welfare, there will not be any reason why they will not achieve their targets. They will be ready to perform when they know that this job that I am having at hand now is one of the best jobs in Nigeria. Pay them a wages that is in line with the global standard, with the tax authority in other countries. They will perform. That is one of the efficiency of tax administration. Another efficiency of tax administration is funding of tax refund. Funding of what? Tax refund. Funding of tax refund. Tax refund means when a taxpayer overpay tax and he applied that the tax are overpaid, give me my refund. When a taxpayer requests for tax refund, tax authority should answer them. They should audit them. And if from the audit they discover that this person has truly made excess tax payments. Refund them back. Excess tax payments normally arises as a result of withholding tax deduction. Take for instance now, you do a contract with government. That contract worth 500 million. Government now deducts withholding tax of 5%. 5% of 500 million is how much? 5 million. 5% of 500 million. That is 5 million. At the end of the day, for that project you did, they have deducted 5 million withholding tax. When you are now doing your profit margin, you discover that the profit you make on the project is about maybe 3 million. And they have deducted 5 million. If you want to pay tax on that 3 million, the tax you pay will be less than the withholding tax deducted. Automatic, government need to refund you. They have deducted excess tax. They need to refund you. It's one of the efficiency of tax administration. Revenue autonomy is part of tax efficiency of tax administration. You need to give tax authority an autonomy to generate revenue. They need to give local government an autonomy to generate revenue. It's part of efficiency of tax administration. So, what are the challenges of tax administration? Challenges of tax administration or tax collection? What challenge do you face? Tax administration or tax collection in Nigeria? Number one is lack of overall understanding of the role of taxation in national development. People don't know the impact of taxation in the development of the country. People feel that this tax government collects, what are they using it? They don't know that the tax government collects is what they are using for construction of public hospitals, construction of public schools, construction of roads, protection of life and properties. Tax play a vital role for economic development and growth. Without tax, a country cannot survive. But there is a misinformation between the taxpayer and the tax authority that what are the government using the money for? It's misinformation. So this is one of the challenges of taxation in Nigeria. Another challenges of taxation in Nigeria is dependence on oil revenue. Dependence on oil revenue, leading to neglect of taxation as sources of revenue. Governments in the past, they depend, like 5 years ago, when the price of crude oil is booming, government depend on crude oil revenue. They don't look at tax. That is the reason why we are, like maybe 7 years ago, if you look at the level of tax evasion 7 years ago, when you conduct a research, Nigeria has the highest rate of tax evasion in the world 7 years ago, because people don't pay tax. Government too, they don't really make effort on enforcement of tax. Like 7 years ago, it is when the price of crude oil is crashing, government is now focusing on tax. Can you imagine now? Federal government budget, 60% of it, or 50 or 70% of federal government budget is coming, the revenue of federal is coming from tax. If government does not focus on tax, look at the price of crude oil now. How much government is getting from sales of oil? It's not as before again. So this is one of the challenges of taxation in Nigeria. Another challenges of taxation in Nigeria is lack of sufficient support for the tax administration. Lack of what? Sufficient support. Lack of sufficient political support for the tax administration. The tax administration, they are not giving political support. Government is not giving them free power to operate as an autonomy agency. They are still reporting to Minister of Finance. At the state level, they are still reporting to Commissioner of Finance. This is one of the challenges of tax administration. Another challenges of tax administration that we have, lack of informal sector outside tax nets. Large informal sector outside the tax nets. Those informal sector, one-man business, like I said, the artisan, the trader, they are the ones not paying tax too much. Though some scholars believe that most of them, they are paying multiple taxes. That most of the multiple taxes paid by informal sector, government cannot account for it. It's being collected by the area boys, the leaders, and so on like that. That they believe that most of these multiple taxes, when they want to go and buy their good in the market, somebody will collect tax from them. A driver, commercial driver driving in the road at every bus stop, they will pay money for tickets imposed by the union. That these are multiple taxes that cannot be accounted for. Low level of voluntary compliance. People don't comply with the tax law voluntarily. Low level of voluntary compliance is part of challenges of tax administration. Multiple taxation in Nigeria. This is part of challenges of tax administration in Nigeria. There is high level of multiple taxes. A lot of multiple taxes on one income like this. They can collect different kinds of taxes on that income. At the end of the day, you receive 100,000, bank will deduct charges. You will pay state government tax on them. Federal government will collect VAT on the same 100,000. When you went to market to go and buy food on the same 100,000, another tax will be imposed on it. That is multiple taxation. It's a challenge of tax administration. Another challenges of tax administration that we have is high level of tax evasion. People evade tax too much. Even the corporate bodies too, they engage in tax evasion. They engage in tax evasion. Lack of accountability for tax revenue. Most of the tax revenue collected by the state government, they cannot account for it. Most of the tax revenue collected by the federal, they cannot account for it. That means people don't see value for what they are paying tax for. That discourages the taxpayer from paying tax. That encourages them from engaging in all series of tax evasion. Corruption and diversion of tax revenue. Yes, this is one of the challenges. They're corrupt. The tax officials, they are corrupt. The parts of tax officials who are collecting tax, they are corrupt. They collide with taxpayer to reduce tax. The compensation for PR. The tax collected by tax authority lodged to government post. Some government official, they will embezzle it. Governor embezzle tax fund. President embezzle tax fund. Through contract awardment, through award of contracts. These are all challenges of tax administration in Nigeria. So this is what we need to, this topic called tax administration. Do we have any question, any observation? So please, I'm sorry for today's class because of the meeting. I have to attend to some call. So I'm very sorry for that. So I promise tomorrow, we are still having another task tomorrow. There will be a task class tomorrow again. By God's grace. So by tomorrow, we are going to look at value-added tasks and look at task assessment procedure. Tomorrow, look at value-added tasks and task assessment procedure. Before the end of today, they will communicate the timetable we are going to use tomorrow for. So do we have any question, any observation?
I think we've done value.
Yes, the online student, you have done value-added tasks. This class is a combined class. It consists of online students and our VI students. In our VI center today, because of traffic in VI, there is an event holding in VI. We couldn't conduct physical lecture. That is the reason why we join it together. But for the online student too, you may be interested for tomorrow class. The tomorrow class will be based on value-added tasks, but you have not done task assessment procedure. Maybe I will start from task assessment procedure tomorrow. After I finish the task assessment procedure, the online student may log out, so it will remain my VI student. We are now going to do value-added tasks. Or what we can do for us to benefit is for us to revisit personal income tax. After we finish tax assessment procedure tomorrow, we need to revisit personal income tax, solve 2 questions on personal income tax. So do you think that one would be okay?
That's better.
It's fine, sir.
Eh?
Yes, sir.
Fine, sir.
That's
So
better,
that
sir.
my VI student,
It's fine, sir.
if we resume our physical lecture next week, we do value-added tasks.
All right, sir.
Okay, thank you for having me. So have a nice day.